There are dreams that pass like smoke, vanishing as quickly as the dawn. And then there are dreams that linger, heavy with significance, like messages written in a script we half understand. In these dreams, a figure sometimes appears, not just a vague stranger, nor merely a person from memory, but someone who feels profoundly real. Their presence thrums with energy, as though they have stepped into your sleep not by accident but by intention, arriving from some place beyond the veil. To dream of such a person is to stand at the edge of two overlapping realities, where your mind ceases to be a closed chamber and instead becomes a meeting ground between worlds. The idea may sound otherworldly, even impossible, and yet it is a notion that has quietly threaded through human imagination for centuries. Cultures across time have whispered of dreams as gateways, of souls as travelers, of reality as something more fluid than the waking eye would dare admit. When you dream of this particular person, this one whose presence is too vivid, too resonant, too undeniably there, it is not mere fantasy. It is a visitation. It is a brushing of universes, the gentle crossing of two streams of existence. The person you see is not only alive in the corridors of your memory or imagination, but also in the secret architectures of another reality, and your dream is their chosen doorway into yours. To understand this is to step into a larger view of existence itself. Our waking world trains us to believe that boundaries are fixed, that time marches one way, that identities are singular, that the self you carry is the only one you have. But dreams undermine this rigidity. They remind us that consciousness is a shifting ocean, not a fixed island. In them, we encounter places we've never visited yet know with certainty, conversations that feel rehearsed across lifetimes, and presences that break the laws of memory. The dream visitor is one of the most astonishing of these phenomena, because they arrive not as symbols or fleeting images, but as beings with intent. You awaken with the uncanny sense that they were truly there. Why does this matter? Because if reality is layered, if consciousness is capable of reaching across dimensions, then the meaning of our lives is far richer than the strict narrative we are taught to accept. Imagine that your soul is not a solitary spark but a constellation, shining simultaneously in multiple skies. Imagine that the person who enters your dream is one star of that constellation, reaching across the darkness to remind you of your own vastness. Such an encounter is not just mystical ornament, it can reshape how you see love, loss, destiny, and the very structure of being. Philosophers have often described dreams as mirrors of the subconscious, yet what if they are also windows? Windows into the rooms of parallel realities, where other versions of us are living out their own arcs of choice and consequence. In those realities, the person you see might be walking beside you daily, or may be someone whose path you are destined to meet across timelines. When they appear in your sleep, the dream becomes less of a random inner theater and more of a portal through which realities converse. Think of it as music heard faintly through a wall. You know the tune is not your own, yet you recognize its resonance with you. The person in your dream is the music, and your consciousness is the wall, thin enough, in certain hours of sleep, to let the notes leak through. In those hours, reality relaxes its grip, the strict order of waking dissolves, and you are free to witness the symphony of what lies beyond. Yet there is more. To dream of this person is not simply to observe, but to participate. Your dream is a crossroads, and you are as much the visitor to them as they are to you. The exchange is mutual, you walk into their reality as they enter yours, if only for a moment. This means that your presence in their dream is as vivid and haunting to them as theirs is to you. You may both awaken with the same inexplicable sense of having been touched by something vast, and though neither can fully explain it, both will carry its echo. This is where wonder meets responsibility. If dreams can indeed be visitations, then to dream of a person is not trivial. It is a recognition of threads that weave through unseen fabrics of being. You might dismiss it, of course, wake, shrug, and call it imagination. But if you choose to honor the dream, to listen to it as you would to a sacred messenger, then you begin to inhabit reality differently. Suddenly, encounters in waking life shimmer with hidden meaning. Suddenly, separations no longer feel final. Suddenly, the universe expands around you, not just outward into galaxies but inward into the labyrinths of mind and spirit. In this way, dreaming of someone from another reality is less about them and more about you, your readiness to see existence as porous, your openness to being shaped by what cannot be neatly measured, your willingness to acknowledge that the borders of selfhood are not walls but rivers. The dream is an invitation, and whether you step through it determines the depth of your journey. You may feel hesitation, for the rational world demands evidence, and here there is none in the traditional sense. Yet consider this, evidence is simply the residue of repeated contact. If enough people across ages, across cultures, across continents report the same phenomenon, then perhaps the dream itself is evidence of its own truth. It is not less real because it resists measurement, it is more real, precisely because it cannot be reduced. So let us embark, then, into this idea as one would step into a great cathedral of thought, where the ceiling is the cosmos itself and the walls are woven of memory, myth, and possibility. To dream of this person is to open the door of that cathedral and walk into a sacred convergence. What lies ahead is not merely analysis but exploration, not just speculation but a weaving of imagination and philosophy into a tapestry of meaning. For if such dreams are truly visitations, then they are among the most profound gifts consciousness has to offer, and to contemplate them is to stand at the edge of infinity. To venture deeper into the meaning of these dream visitations, we must first pause to look at the patterns that surround them, the foundations upon which this strange architecture rests. Dreams themselves are the language of crossing thresholds, they dissolve the boundaries of the waking world and allow us to glimpse a truth that is always present but rarely acknowledged, that existence is not one, but many. At the heart of this lies a cluster of guiding themes, currents beneath the surface that shape how we experience, interpret, and embody the notion that when you dream of a certain person, they are visiting you from another reality. The first of these currents is the recognition of reality as layered rather than singular. We live, day to day, as if walking on a flat plane. The ground feels solid beneath our feet, and we convince ourselves that what we see is all that is. Yet every mystic tradition, every whisper from quantum physics, every story told by those who dream deeply, suggests otherwise. Reality is more akin to an ocean with hidden depths than to a mere plane. When we fall into sleep, we do not step away from reality but descend into another layer of it. The person who visits us emerges from those depths, like a diver rising from beneath the waves, carrying with them the unmistakable presence of somewhere else. Their arrival reveals that our existence is multidimensional, a living tapestry stretched across countless planes. Another guiding theme is resonance. Not every dream carries a visitor, and not every person we dream of is more than a reflection of our own subconscious. The difference lies in the energy they carry. The dream visitor is marked by a quality of presence that feels electric, almost undeniable, as though a tuning fork within you has been struck by an outside force. Resonance is what convinces us that this is more than imagination, it is the recognition of a vibration that does not belong to us alone. Imagine two strings on different instruments vibrating in harmony, the sound of one awakens the sound of the other. In much the same way, the visitor awakens within us something that feels older, wider, deeper than our own limited perspective. Interwoven with this is the theme of intention. Dreams are often chaotic, scattered fragments of thought and memory, but the presence of another being introduces a kind of coherence, a directedness that shifts the dream into a more deliberate shape. The visitor's intention, whether conscious or instinctual, guides the experience. Sometimes it arrives as a message wrapped in metaphor, other times as nothing more than a gaze or a gesture that carries weight beyond words. Intention is the invisible thread that stitches one reality to another, reminding us that these encounters are not accidents but appointments. We must also consider the paradox of illusion and truth. On the surface, a dream may appear like illusion, ephemeral and insubstantial. Yet in the paradoxical way of existence, it may contain more truth than waking perception. Just as a mirage may reveal the nature of light even if it does not reveal water, so too does the dream reveal the nature of reality even if it does not conform to ordinary logic. When a person visits you from another reality in a dream, the illusion of their presence may carry the deeper truth of connection, continuity, and infinite possibility. In this way, dreams challenge us to ask, is waking life itself less real than we assume, and are the dreams more real than we dare admit? Another theme emerges in the question of identity. If another person can step into your dream from a parallel existence, what does that mean for who you are? Are you not also capable of stepping into theirs? Dreams of visitation invite us to reconsider selfhood not as an isolated core but as a shifting, expansive field of presence. You are not simply you, but a chorus of possible selves, each echoing across realities. The visitor is a mirror, reminding you that identity is porous, and that the I you cling to is but one ripple in a much larger sea. Beyond these philosophical pillars lies the emotional reality of such dreams. They often carry a feeling that cannot be shaken upon waking, joy so sharp it aches, grief that feels older than this lifetime, love that seems to stretch across centuries, recognition that borders on sacred. Emotions are the carriers of truth in these experiences. They outlast the images and words of the dream, burning their mark into the heart long after memory fades. It is this emotional weight that convinces us that something more profound is at work, that we have not merely conjured a phantom, but encountered a living presence. There is also the theme of destiny and timing. Why now? Why this person? The answer lies in the mysterious choreography of existence. Just as certain people appear in our waking lives at moments of transformation, so too do dream visitors arrive at turning points. Their presence often coincides with thresholds, moments when we are ready to let go, to awaken, to shift course. They are not random faces in the crowd of the unconscious, but messengers aligned with the arc of our becoming. To dream of them is to be reminded that life is not a series of disconnected accidents but a pattern, and that patterns speak. Perhaps the most profound theme of all is interconnectedness. To dream of someone from another reality is to feel, in the deepest marrow of your being, that nothing is separate. The borders we draw between self and other, life and death, dream and waking, are soft lines on shifting sand. The dream is the tide that erases them. In its wake, we are left with a sense that everything touches everything, that consciousness is a shared field, and that the person who visits you is not truly other at all, but another face of the infinite whole to which you also belong. Taken together, these themes, layered reality, resonance, intention, illusion and truth, fluid identity, emotional depth, destiny, interconnectedness, form the pillars upon which the phenomenon rests. They remind us that to dream of another person as a visitor from elsewhere is not just a curious footnote in the story of sleep, but a revelation about the very nature of existence. The dream is not asking you to solve it as though it were a puzzle, it is asking you to live differently because of it. To walk in the waking world with the knowledge that reality is wider than you knew, that connections stretch beyond what the eye can see, and that your life is a thread in a far greater weaving. And so, as we stand at this point in the journey, having laid out the guiding principles, we are invited to move deeper still. For it is one thing to describe themes, and another to enter the heart of them through story, symbol, and myth. That is where the next doorway opens, into the realm of deeper symbolic narratives, where the truths of these encounters reveal themselves not only through concepts but through living allegories that echo across time. Stories have always been the vessels through which humanity carries truths too large for straightforward explanation. Myths, parables, and dreamlike tales allow us to glimpse the architecture of reality in forms our hearts can understand even when our minds resist. To speak of dreaming of a person who visits from another reality, it is not enough to name it, define it, or map its themes. We must also enter the realm of symbols and allegories, for their truth bends into shapes that can be held. In these symbolic narratives, the essence of visitation is revealed, not as abstraction but as living story. Consider first the story of the Bridge of Mirrors. Imagine a traveler wandering through a twilight forest, uncertain of direction, when suddenly they find a bridge made entirely of mirrors. Each step upon this bridge reflects not only their own image but countless variations of themselves, some older, some younger, some strangers altogether. At the midpoint of the bridge, they see not their reflection at all, but another person standing before them, someone whose gaze pierces through the mirrored glass as though from another world. The traveler realizes, with a shock that feels like recognition, that this is not reflection but visitation. The other is walking their own mirrored bridge in another reality, and the two paths have overlapped in this moment of shimmering twilight. This story embodies the dream of visitation. We walk our lives thinking reflections belong only to us, until one day the mirror reveals another who is equally real, equally alive, equally gazing back. Or take the tale of the lantern bearers. In an ancient village, it is said that every soul carries a hidden lantern lit by the flame of existence. By day, the lantern is invisible, but by night, in the world of dreams, the lanterns appear. Some shine faintly, some brightly, and some are carried across boundaries of time and space. Those who appear in our dreams as more than shadows are the lantern bearers whose flames burn close enough to touch our own. When you dream of such a person, it is because their light has reached across the dark corridors of parallel worlds to illuminate your path. In waking life, you may never meet them, or you may not recognize them if you do. But the lantern they carried to you in dream has already altered your course, reminding you that all lights come from the same fire, and no distance is too great for flame to travel. Another symbolic narrative comes from the weaving loom. Imagine existence as a vast loom strung with endless threads. Each thread is a life, each knot a choice, each color a unique hue of being. The loom is so immense that no single eye can take in its whole design. In dreams, however, you sometimes glimpse its pattern, not the entirety, but intersections where threads cross. The person you dream of is one such crossing. They are not a stranger's thread brushing against yours, they are a fellow strand that has always been woven near you, perhaps in another layer of the tapestry unseen in waking hours. The dream is where the weaver lets you see the overlap, a reminder that the tapestry is not linear but multidimensional, that you are part of a fabric whose design is wider and more intricate than you could imagine. Symbols also carry warnings. There is an old story of a wanderer who mistook every face in his dreams for a visitor from another world. He spent his waking life chasing these figures, certain that they would lead him to hidden realms. But the more he pursued, the more disoriented he became, until he no longer recognized his own reflection. The lesson here is that not every dream figure is a visitor. Some are shadows of ourselves, fragments of thought, or echoes of memory. To discern the true visitor is to listen not only with the eye but with the heart. For the visitor carries resonance, and resonance cannot be faked. This story reminds us that discernment is as important as openness, that the mystery of dream visitations is not an invitation to obsession but to balance. Then there is the allegory of the twin stars. Two stars, born in different corners of the galaxy, burn with the same rhythm, pulsing in harmony across vast distances of space. To the eye of an astronomer, they seem unrelated, yet their light waves align perfectly, beating in unison. In dreams, you are one star, and the visitor is the other. Across the infinite darkness, your lights find each other. The dream is the moment when those pulses overlap, or recognition that separation is an illusion and that harmony can exist even when distance stretches endlessly between. To dream of them is to feel that your life is not random, that your soul has a counterpart, or resonance so exact it could only belong to another star born from the same cosmic fire. Even ordinary folk tales hint at this truth. There are countless stories of lovers who meet in dreams before they meet in life, of ancestors who return to guide the living in sleep, of strangers who speak messages that later prove prophetic. These are not mere superstitions, but symbolic testaments to the human intuition that dreams are crossings. In every culture, in every time, the same narrative emerges: sleep is not a shutting down, but a doorway. Through it, we encounter others not confined by waking geography. Some of them are archetypes, others are inner aspects of ourselves, but a few, the ones who burn with undeniable presence, are travelers from another weave of existence. What makes these symbolic narratives powerful is their universality. The mirrored bridge, the lantern flame, the weaving loom, the twin stars, these images echo across traditions and imaginations, reminding us that humanity has always intuited the porousness of reality. We may call it mythology, we may call it metaphor, but the resonance is unmistakable. Dreams are not silent theaters but living crossroads. And in those crossroads, meaning is not delivered like a message in a sealed envelope. It is felt, absorbed, lived. The visitor in your dream does not hand you instructions, they embody connection. Their presence is the message. It says, you are not alone. You are not bounded. You are more than this one life, this one self. We are connected in ways the waking mind cannot hold. This is why the symbolic narratives matter. They give shape to the formless, offering the soul a language to understand what the rational mind cannot. By stepping into these allegories, we see that the dream visitor is not just a phenomenon to be analyzed but a story to be lived. To dream of them is to be woven into a myth as old as humanity, one in which the boundaries between worlds bend and dissolve, and the heart recognizes itself in another across the expanse of realities. It is one thing to speak of dream visitations as cosmic mysteries, shimmering symbols that stir awe and wonder. Yet, without anchoring them into the soil of daily life, they risk remaining only distant stars, beautiful to gaze upon, but untouchable. The true power of such dreams lies not only in their strangeness, but in their ability to reshape how we live, how we see ourselves, and how we relate to others. To integrate these visitations is to let the extraordinary inform the ordinary, so that the rhythms of our waking lives are infused with the echoes of deeper realities. The first step toward integration is openness. Many people awaken from such dreams and immediately dismiss them as imagination, fantasy, or emotional residue. But if you allow yourself to hold the dream gently, as one might hold a fragile artifact, it begins to reveal more. Journaling upon waking, sketching the images, or even sitting quietly with the memory can give space for its meaning to unfold. The person who visited may not offer words, but their presence itself is a language. To take the dream seriously is to affirm that the inner world is not separate from the outer, that what stirs in the night can shape what you choose by day. In practical terms, these dreams often sharpen our sense of connection. If you wake from such an encounter with a lingering sense of love, grief, or recognition, you may find that your relationships in waking life subtly shift. You might listen more attentively, speak more gently, or feel more patience with others. The visitor from another reality becomes a catalyst for deeper empathy, reminding you that every person is a universe, every interaction a crossing of worlds. By honoring the dream, you cultivate a presence in daily life that is more attuned, compassionate, and awake. These visitations can also serve as guides during times of uncertainty. Perhaps you are standing at a threshold, considering a new path, facing a loss, or feeling lost in the labyrinth of choices. A dream visitor may not tell you what to do, but their presence can act as a compass. The resonance you felt in the dream may linger as a subtle nudge, pointing toward what aligns with your deeper self. In this way, dreams become less about escape and more about orientation. They remind you that you are not wandering alone, that there are unseen networks of connection that support your journey. There is also a practical invitation to humility. To experience such a dream is to confront the reality that existence is far vaster than we can control or fully comprehend. This recognition can soften the rigid certainties that often dominate waking life. Suddenly, success and failure appear less absolute, beginnings and endings less final. The awareness that consciousness stretches beyond a single life or a single self encourages a gentler approach to living. You learn to hold things lightly, to marvel more and demand less. In this way, the dream cultivates wisdom, not through doctrine but through lived perspective. These visitations may also inspire creative expression. Many of the world's most enduring works of art, poetry, and philosophy have their roots in dream experiences. To encounter someone from another reality is to touch the very edge of imagination and existence. Translating that into art, whether through words, images, music, or movement, becomes a way of grounding the experience while sharing it with others. Creativity then becomes a bridge, not only between the dream and waking self, but between your experience and the collective human story. On a subtler level, these dreams challenge us to reconsider the boundaries of identity and belonging. If someone from another reality can step into your consciousness, what does that say about who you are? Perhaps your own being is not confined to the borders of this body or this lifetime. Integrating the dream means allowing yourself to expand, to see that you are part of a network of selves and souls woven across multiple realities. This shift in perspective may manifest in practical ways, feeling less isolated in times of struggle, less fearful in the face of loss, more open to the idea that love and connection extend beyond time and circumstance. Such dreams can even affect how we relate to mortality. To experience a visitation is to sense that consciousness does not end at the boundary of waking life or even physical death. You realize that presence itself, pure being, cannot be destroyed, only transformed. This realization does not eliminate grief or fear, but it offers a deeper ground upon which to stand. It reminds you that existence is cyclical, layered, and interconnected, and that death is not annihilation but transition. In daily life, this can translate into a greater appreciation for the present moment, and a calmer acceptance of life's impermanence. Yet integration is not only inward. On a social level, acknowledging the significance of such dreams fosters community. Sharing them with trusted friends, spiritual companions, or creative collaborators allows the dream's resonance to ripple outward. Others may recognize echoes in their own experiences, and in that recognition, connection deepens. A culture that values dreams as meaningful exchanges rather than empty illusions becomes a culture more attuned to mystery, imagination, and compassion. Of course, the practical path is not always smooth. There is the temptation to cling too tightly to the dream, to obsess over the visitor, to mistake the symbolic for the literal. Integration requires balance, the ability to honor the mystery without collapsing into it, to allow the dream to shape you without dictating every waking choice. The dream is a guide, not a cage. It does not demand fixation, only openness. Ultimately, to integrate the dream of a visitor from another reality is to live as though every moment is more than it appears. To walk through the day with the quiet awareness that reality is layered, that connection is vast, that love transcends boundaries. It is to greet the ordinary with reverence, to see the extraordinary in the eyes of those you pass, to live awake to the possibility that every encounter may be part of a grander weaving. When you do this, the line between dream and waking begins to soften. You carry the visitation not as a distant memory, but as a living presence. It whispers in how you move through the world, how you love, how you listen, how you create. And in that whisper lies transformation, the quiet reshaping of life by the echo of another reality. As we arrive at the closing arc of this exploration, it is worth pausing to feel the journey that has unfolded. We began with the wonder of dreaming of a person whose presence feels too vivid to dismiss, then wandered through the guiding themes that give such encounters meaning. We walked into allegories and symbolic tales that clothe the ineffable in story, and finally, we turned our attention to how these dream visitations can be lived and integrated into the fabric of everyday existence. Now, the question remains, what is the call that rises from all of this? What is the transformation these dreams invite us toward? At its core, the dream of a visitor from another reality is not merely about them, it is about you. It is about your willingness to recognize that you are more than a single thread in time, more than a single self locked into a narrow world. When you dream of this person, you are reminded of your own vastness. The dream is less a message delivered and more a mirror held up, reflecting your capacity to touch infinity. In that mirror, you see that your life is already woven with the lives of countless others, some near, some distant, some within realities that cannot be charted on maps. To receive this reminder is to be invited into a different way of living. It is to live with a porous heart, one that allows mystery to breathe through it rather than shutting it out. It is to cultivate a gaze that looks beyond surfaces, seeing every meeting, every loss, every joy as part of a tapestry much larger than your own perspective. The visitor in your dream does not only arrive for a fleeting night, they arrive to awaken you to the truth that you are a visitor, too. You move through your days not as a solitary being but as a traveler between layers of existence, a bearer of presence capable of touching worlds unseen. This is the transformational call, to stop living as though reality is flat and predictable, and instead live as though it is alive, breathing, multidimensional. To wake each morning and know that the boundary between the dream and the day is thinner than you once believed. To let the resonance of the dream, its love, its recognition, its awe, spill into how you greet others, how you listen, how you create, how you dare to be. Transformation is rarely dramatic in its unfolding. More often it is subtle, a gentler tone in conversation, a deeper patience with life's delays, a willingness to see beauty in what once felt mundane. Yet these small shifts ripple outward, changing not only your life but the lives you touch. If dream visitations remind us of interconnectedness, then the way you integrate them matters far beyond yourself. Every act of compassion, every moment of presence, every gesture of love becomes part of the wider weaving. And so the invitation stands, to live as though the dream were real, because in a sense, it is. The visitor from another reality may never walk through your waking door, but they have already left their imprint in your soul. Their presence is now carried within you, and through you it is carried into the world. To honor that is to honor the mystery itself. In the end, dreaming of this person is not about escape from reality but expansion into it. It is not about clinging to visions of other worlds but embodying the truth that even this world is already vast, layered, and alive with unseen connections. The dream reminds you that every breath is part of a cosmic rhythm, every step a crossing of thresholds, every encounter a visitation of sorts. So let this be your call, to awaken not only from sleep but into life itself. To let your days be shaped by the same wonder that stirred in your dreams. To live as though every moment is a meeting of worlds, because in truth, it is. The dream of a visitor is not the exception but the revelation of what has always been true, that you are woven into infinity, and infinity is woven into you. Carry this awareness as a lantern. Let it illuminate the path before you. And as you walk, remember that you too may appear in the dreams of others, a visitor stepping across realities to remind them of their own boundless being. In this way, the circle continues, and the great tapestry grows ever richer. This is the transformation, to see yourself as part of something immeasurable, to live with reverence for the unseen, and to embrace the mystery as a companion rather than a stranger. For when you dream of this person, they are indeed visiting you from another reality, and in that visitation, they awaken you to the truth that all realities touch, and all souls belong.